This is The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. With your host, Tyson Gifford and William Roerick. Episode 105, The Amazon Pilot Season. Recorded April 27th, 2017. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly Set, the official podcast of TVEnthusiast.com. I am your host and the editor-in-chief of TV Enthusiast. My name is Tyson, and joining me today, as always, is William Roerick, my co-host on the show.
Hello.
So today we are going to be talking about the most recent Amazon pilot season. They had a few pilot episodes for shows there, and they're going to decide which ones they're picking up. I think so far they picked up one of them and are still negotiating some of the other ones. But we're going to be talking about Budding Prospects, the new VIPs, The Legend of Master Legend, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Oasis. So I'm going to kick things off by talking about Budding Prospects. Now, Will hasn't watched this one, so I'm just going to go over it pretty quickly. This is based on the book by T. Corrigason Boyle. I probably butchered that name horribly. And this was actually directed by Terry Zwigoff, who directed the first Bad Santa movie. So you got some good talent there from that, and it's got a pretty good cast too, with Adam Rose from Veronica Mars and Joel David Moore from Grandma's Boy, Will Sasso, of course, from Mad TV. So yeah, it's got some good people in it. I also really like Natalie Morales from The Middleman, who's in it. And it's basically a story set in like the 70s or early 80s. I'm not exactly sure, in San Francisco. And the main character gets an opportunity to grow marijuana for a friend of his that's like wealthy, and he bought this land and he's going to grow pot, and he needs somebody to basically farm it for him. And so this guy, he needs two other people to help him. They go and they're heading off to farm this land. And the pilot episode only covered up to them basically leaving to farm the land. Like, they haven't even done it yet. They haven't even gotten there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's actually really interesting going through, just like the characters. There's this kind of weird, like, kind of sinister undertone where you kind of have this idea that even though this guy that, like, is hiring them is kind of eccentric and fun and weird, and they're kind of friends and stuff, there's also kind of like this hint of danger, because, you know, like, this money's on the line and stuff. And, yeah, it's just kind of interesting. It's, you know, like I said, really good comedic cast. Will Sasso is really funny in it.
Okay, yeah, Will Sasso is good people. Just not interested.
Yeah, there are a lot of marijuana-based comedies, like, in the pipeline right now. Amazon, or Netflix has one coming out called Disjointed from Chuck Lorre. Less sigh.
I think stoner comedies are just lazy. Come on, people.
These aren't necessarily stoner comedies. They're comedies, like, about marijuana. So, like, this show is definitely not like a That 70s Show or something. It's not like that. It's got, like serious storytelling chops going on, you know?
Right.
I have no idea about Disjointed. It's from Chuck Lorre, who did, like, Big Bang Theory and stuff.
It's sure to be
It's
crap.
Probably just a straight up stoner comedy.
The best thing Chuck Lorre ever did was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles theme song. Go back to that. Yeah.
So I don't know, like, how that's gonna turn out. And there's, like I said, there's other shows too in development that are coming from all different directions. But, yeah, of the ones, I think Budding Prospects has probably the best potential to actually be a decent show. But yeah, let's move on from that. The next one we're going to talk about is one that, Will also had a chance to watch. This is the new VIPs. This is created and written by Steve, Dildarian, who also did The Life and Times of Tim, which is a very, very similar show to this. So if anybody does watch the new VIPs pilot and really likes it, check out The Life and Times of Tim. It was on HBO. And this pilot was directed by Mark Brooks, who did a bunch of episodes for shows like Metalocalypse. So what did you think of the new VIPs?
I did laugh. I did laugh at parts. It's a funny show. It's definitely like a bit of screwball comedy. It's totally screwball comedy to the point where, everything is heightened and exaggerated, and it was funny. I don't think I loved it too much. I do like the main character and how much like a not give a shit kind of asshole he is. I think I like that character archetype in comedies though, because I do like Master Shake and Aqua Teen Hunger Force, and that's a similar type of character. So I definitely like him. And it had a few pretty good lines. like when they were going over everything, is like, yeah, and you had your fingerprints up down that guy's penis. It's
a very crass show.
Yeah, it's like I think we can leave that part out. It's a very crass show. It's very lots of dick jokes. A lot of dick jokes and actual dicks and pictures of dicks and drawings of dicks. This is a very dick-centric show.
And people peeing on each other.
Yeah, this is a very, very penis-centric show, at least the first episode. It's really crass humor. They really, there was also a whole thing about like reducing the one guy's penis, and they really loved talking about penises in this.
So the new VIPs, very crash show. If you did like The Life and Times of Tim, it's pretty much the same thing, just different characters.
Pretty much. I mean, there's not much to talk about with this show. Really, it's a 30-minute comedy. You have to like crass humor to get. If you don't like crass humor, nothing about this will appeal to you at all.
Oh yeah, not at all. You'll hate
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly. So I could see this being a very divisive type of show if it moves forward. I don't know how successful Life and Times. I've never watched an episode of Life and Times of Tim. So it
went a few seasons on HBO.
So I didn't have any concept going in on what this was going to be, except for like your warning earlier today is like, it's very crass. And I'm like, okay.
So we're going to talk now about The Legend of Master Legend, which is the third show we're discussing. This is actually based on an article in, I believe, Rolling Stone, from Joshua Behrman. And the episode was written by two writers from Transparent, and it was directed by one of the directors who worked on Master of None. This, interestingly enough, like almost unrecognizable, the guy playing Master Legend is John Hawkes, who was in Deadwood. He was like, I was surprised because I was trying to place him.
Like, it was one of those things where like I was watching and he looked so familiar, and thanks to Amazon's X-ray feature, which is I wish Netflix had this. I wish everybody had this. That because you could just mouse over the screen and then it shows you who the actors are in the scene, and that's how I learned Master Legend was John Hawkes, because it was one of those situations where he was so damn familiar, but because he does look so different in this, I could not place him, and that was it. And he does a fantastic job too in the role.
This also features Shea Wiggum, who is in Boardwalk Empire. He plays his brother in this. You'd know him more though probably from Agent Carter.
Yes,
where he was kind of like Peggy's asshole, like
a boss,
misogynistic boss.
Yeah, but I recognized him as soon as he came on. I was like, oh, that's that guy. It's like
Shea Wiggum is that actor. He's that guy actor.
Oh, okay. He's that guy. Yeah, he shows up. Yeah, he's his brother, who had just gotten out of prison, apparently, for I guess for dealing drugs, is what he was in. They're kind of vague.
Well, Master Legend refers referred to him as a crackhead.
Yes.
So he's apparently kind of was into drugs and stuff.
He was into drugs. They don't exactly say, but yeah, he does call him a crackhead. You knew he was into drugs. You had to assume he was in prison more for dealing than using.
Yeah, or committing some crime while using.
Or yeah, exactly. Or committing some crime while using. It doesn't really go into detail about that, but there is big animosity between him and Master Legend. And the thing about it is, like he's his little brother. And so he's trying to, like, I guess he's just trying to get his brother to accept him now, you know, trying to make up for what he did in the past. But
he's a bit of like a screw up wild card.
Yeah, he's a bit of a screw up. Yeah, he's a bit of a wild card character. So because he goes about things. Let's talk about the show I really ended up liking this show. More than I thought I would, just from like the premise, because I just thought I guess I didn't know what to expect, because you know when you hear like about these like so-called real life superheroes that you see, it's mostly just like these geeks that do this, and my initial reaction is that can't possibly be very interesting to see this guy dress up as superhero, be a dork, and then go play freaking Call of Duty in his mom's basement. You know, that cannot possibly be an interesting show. But no, they do it. It's the tone is, it's depressing. It's a depressing show because,
it's kind of all like the characters, like all these kind of vigilante characters, and you see a few of them. It's his brother was apparently one for a time, and
yeah,
he has another friend that's like very religious now that's like that. They're all kind of like the best way to put it is probably just to say losers.
Yeah, they're
like people that like just haven't, you know, I mean, Master Legend basically lives in a storage unit, you know?
Yeah.
They have like a secret hideout area. It's like they're kind of poor, you know, lower middle class, I guess, or lower class, people that are, you know, doing this out of almost like a sense of desperation to like have some kind of meaning in their life. And, that's kind of the sadness that kind of permeates the show.
Yeah, that's the sad. Yeah, it's like you get he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's trying to do the right thing. You know. He makes these bags of necessities for the homeless people. You know, he passes them out. You know, it seems like he just wants to do what some good for the city he lives in a way that, you know, he feels he knows how. And, you know, and he's ostracized for it. Really, I mean, his wife, he's estranged from his wife because she doesn't approve of it. You know, his daughter certainly doesn't approve of it. You know, so he's got these people.
Well, his daughter's kind of mixed on it, it seems. It seems like part of her really likes it, too.
It's just, yeah, it seems like his wife just thinks he's crazy. So yeah, so it's like he's homeless essentially. You know, he doesn't have much going on in his personal life. So it's kind of sad. It's sad to me. And, I think they build this as a dark comedy, but I'm not seeing the comedy part of it. At least not in like this episode. The tone doesn't marry itself well to comedy.
There is kind of like a subtle comedy in just kind of the ridiculousness of it.
Right.
All, you know?
Right. There's a comedy in the fact that what he's doing is absurd on the face of it. But
this is like a new thing in comedy though. I mean, you have a lot of it like, I think Louis C.K. really got the ball rolling on this kind of stuff where, you know, episodes of Louis on FX are like legitimately hilarious. There are also episodes that deal with things like suicide that are just outright depressing through and through. You know, like through the whole episode, it's just depressing. And it's a comedy show. And it's just this depressing half hour of television. After Louis, you started seeing a lot more shows kind of going in that direction. many of which are also produced by Louis, like Baskets, which is a Zach Galifianakis show, which has some parts that are really funny, but when they're funny in like this really kind of dark, kind of mean-spirited way almost, and then that kind of sinks back into the heart of the story, and you get more invested in the characters and kind of, sad characters that are kind of, a little on the pathetic side and stuff. And I think a lot of the comedy is just in the absurdity of the situation. Like, it's almost like, God, this is so depressing, and that's what's funny.
I guess. I guess. Maybe I just empathize with this person too much to see it be funny. Like, I didn't laugh at all.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of comedy, that's like new, I mean, like I said, Louis C.K. is a big person in that kind of style that's kind of brought it forward, but, I remember there was a episode of Louis, like in the first season, where I think it was kind of like his way of explaining his own show in his show, and there was a part where he had like a sitcom or something, and they kept trying to make it more and more like a sitcom, like, with like a laugh track and, like lines and stuff. And, he kept saying like, well, wouldn't it be funnier if she just like said, hey, I want to get a divorce, and then they had a serious talk about getting a divorce. And like the people are like, they just don't like, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, why would that be funny and stuff? And the humor is kind of in the absurdity of the fact that this is a comedy and this is happening in a comedy. It's that kind of like that streak of seriousness is part of the humor. And it's not necessarily like laugh out loud at jokes kind of humor. It's like a different kind of humor. And I think that's kind of what we're getting here with Legend of Master Legend.
Yeah, I think we are getting that sort of humor. I guess, there is a scene that involves him, crashing his daughter's hangout with a girl she really likes, accusing a man there of being a pedophile, which I felt was which I felt was a bit out of place tonal wise. It seemed that they were trying to be more outwardly funny with that scene, I guess, except it didn't come out funny at all.
They were trying to kind of do like awkward.
Yeah.
Like they were trying to kind of show kind of the embarrassment of his daughter and stuff in that situation.
It came out forced, that scene did.
Yeah, that one came out a bit like, a bit much.
Yes. And then I did like his brother coming in and also the end of the episode where his brother shows up with the guy. He had apparently beat him up and like captured him, that ends the episode and you're just like, oh shit, what now? Looking forward to the next episode, if there is a next episode. I'm looking forward to it. This was the best show I watched out of all the pilots.
Have you ever seen Super?
I did not. I heard about it. I mean,
Super is a movie that James Gunn
Kick-Ass,
did.
Which is
Super is a
similar.
movie that James Gunn did, director of Guardians of the Galaxy, way back before Guardians of the Galaxy, with Rainn Wilson from The Office. And it's kind of like this. It's a little bit darker than this, or like a lot darker actually. But it's a similar kind of thing where it has that same kind of comedy sensibility, like where like the comedy is kind of in the tragedy.
Right.
And so I'm kind of wondering if that's kind of the direction this is going to go. But this is apparently based on an actual article based on like a true story, so I don't think it's going to go that way.
It's one of those based on a true story thing. It's based on a true story in as far as there was a person who went around calling himself Master Legend, probably still does.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest is just made up around that.
Yeah. I don't think they're going to go as dark as like Super did or
No.
something, but I think it would be interesting if they kind of went in a direction like that. And based on the way the episode ended, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would. I mean, well, we gotta think that's James Gunn. He goes dark. Like Kick-Ass goes dark because, what's his goddamn name? Mark Millar, who always goes to the darkest, most ridiculous place possible with his concepts.
Mark Millar is a comic book writer, also wrote Kingsman.
Yeah.
And what, the original Civil War, right?
Yeah, he did the original Civil War for Marvel, which also got adapted to a film now. It looks like, Hollywood's pretty much adapted almost all of his work to film now at this point.
I was just thinking, Wanted too. He did Wanted.
Yeah, he did Wanted as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he's been pretty prolific.
That's Kick-Ass though. That's not.
Yeah, that
not Super and not Legend of Master Legend.
No. I just bring up Kick-Ass.
Just not to confuse people. We kind of went off a little.
Yeah, I just brought up Kick-Ass because it's similar to this, and in that the concept's the same about just somebody putting on a costume and deciding they're going to be a superhero. Except Kick-Ass is different because that takes that concept to like this real extreme. Whereas this is a more grounded. This is a more grounded take on that concept.
This is much closer to the reality, which is that there are people that do that go and dress up in costumes, and they basically act like a neighborhood watch.
Yeah, exactly. They basically act.
They don't actually like fight crime, but they'll go around and like report things to the police, and
yeah, exactly. They don't go out and start beating up thugs because that's actually a good way to get yourself killed
or arrested.
Yeah.
But they do it in superhero costumes. So this is like something it's like a real world phenomenon.
Yeah.
That happens. So this is kind of what this is more in line with.
Right. Totally.
So next up, I'm going to talk about the Marvelous Miss Maisel. So this was another one that Will didn't get a chance to watch, but this is written and directed by Amy Sherman Palladino from Gilmore Girls. This is a really good show about a woman who becomes a stand-up comic in, I believe it's in the 1950s.
Yeah, it's another period piece.
Yeah. But it's basically, it's kind of like, I had like a perfect analogy for it before and think I lost it. But I was gonna say it's kind of like, I don't know, like Mad Men meets, I don't know, a stand-up comedian. It's Mad Men with stand-up comedy.
It's like Mad Men meets some woman, I don't know. Yeah.
But basically,
Mad Men meets Gilmore Girls.
It's got that Mad Men way of like reflecting on kind of the negative aspects of our past.
Right. Well, I think
like
that's the
focusing
primary
on misogyny and racism.
Well, I assumed it was set in the 50s purely so that they could focus on the misogyny of that era, and not just because that would be a neato time period to set a show in.
It's written and directed by Amy Sherman Palladino, like I said, of Gilmore Girls. So it's got that kind of like quick, witty dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like Mad Men where like you can have these episodes that are just kind of like depressing and stuff, and you're just kind of like, ugh. And it's like a little bit of work to get through, even though it's really good. This is like, it kind of has that Mad Men aesthetic in the look and stuff, but it's like a very fast, quick-witted show.
Right.
So there's always comedy going on, even when there's something that, and there are like sadder kind of moments and stuff. Even when that's happening, there's like comedy going on pretty quickly, the way characters talk to each other and stuff. There's a scene where, spoilers for the first episode, but there's a scene where, her husband leaves her and she goes and she talks to her dad and her mom, and she's like going to tell them about this. Her dad, played by Tony Shalhoub, by the way, from Monk. Her dad instantly just gets like furious, and he goes off and he starts like banging something on the piano. Her mom just gets like way overly dramatic and starts going like, no, and like goes into a room and is like dramatically bawling, like in a really fake kind of way,
Right.
And so it's like this sad situation, and her parents, they're not kind of identifying with what she's going through. Like they're kind of blaming her a little bit for it, even though, it's not her fault. But it's the kind of like the overreaction of everything is kind of like a funny undercurrent of that scene. So even when it's kind of getting like emotional and stuff, there's still a lot of humor to be had. So yeah, it's a good show. I think one of the best things they did is they brought in Lenny Bruce. So they have an actor playing Lenny Bruce, Lenny Bruce is like a legendary comedian, a big inspiration for like George Carlin and a lot of other kind of like edgier comedians. He's like the first, he's like the godfather of like, dark gritty comedy, basically. He's the guy that pioneered the whole like, what was it, you know how George Carlin would do the bit about like the words that you're not supposed to say and stuff, you know, like the curse words and everything. That started with like Lenny Bruce doing that.
Right.
And George Carlin kind of picked that up after him. So I think by having Lenny Bruce actually in the show as this kind of like motivating factor for the character was really interesting, and really made the show kind of work in a way because people know who Lenny Bruce is. So you kind of identify that and you're like, oh, okay. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen like Bend It Like Beckham where, you know, David Beckham actually pops up in the thing, you know, it's like this, they talk about David Beckham and she sees David Beckham and that kind of frames her story as like this kind of influencing person, you know?
Right, exactly.
So that's kind of like the role Lenny Bruce plays in it. That works out well. Yeah, I mean, it's a good, funny, charming show about sexism in the 50s. And stand-up comedy. Gilbert Gottfried makes an appearance.
Sexism and stand-up comedy, yes. I mean, sure, I might still check that one out afterwards. Since
Tony Shalhoub's in it, and you got Gilbert Gottfried's in it.
I just didn't watch it in time for the podcast tonight, so.
Yeah, it's a pretty good show, and it is the one of all of these shows. This is the only one I know for a fact was picked up, and it was picked up for 2 seasons.
I'm not surprised. I think, I realized this earlier, but I think quality of the show notwithstanding, I think, Amazon got jealous that, Netflix got new Gilmore Girls, and so the second they convinced Amy Sherman Palladino to do something for them, they just picked it up.
It's good though. It's
Yeah.
good. It's definitely a good show. I'd say it might be the best of the bunch of the ones I've seen. That is kind of for me. It's
so
tied
this
between
is-
that and the next show.
So this is
your
so this is actually your favorite show, would you say?
Of
the bunch?
this bunch, I'd say it's between this and the next show we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
Which segues me to the next show we're going to be talking about, Oasis. Just to get the kind of base details out of the way first. It's based on a 2014 novel by Michael Faber called The Book of Strange New Things. Was written by Matt Charman, who did Bridge of Spies, and directed by Kevin MacDonald, who did The Last King of Scotland. It stars Richard Madden, who played Robb Stark in Game of Thrones. Also features Mark Addy, who played Robert Baratheon in Game of Thrones.
That's right.
Yeah, Antje Traue from Man of Steel. She played like the evil Kryptonian woman. She's in it.
I didn't watch that movie.
You didn't watch Man of Steel?
No.
Okay. Anil Kapoor from Slumdog Millionaire. He was like the game show host.
Yep.
He's a Bollywood actor. He was on 24. He's been on some other things. And Haley Joel Osment.
I
from The Sixth
almost
Sense.
didn't recognize him at first until I
It's like he grew, but his face didn't.
his face didn't. Yeah, it's like I guess the beard threw me off at first, but then when I noticed his face, I was like, "That's Haley Joel Osment." It's so weird because you still instantly recognize his face, but the rest of him like aged around his face. It's like so odd. He looks odd.
Yeah, he's an odd looking guy now. Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like his face stayed exactly the same and every other part of him aged.
Yeah. He got a little plumper too. I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I thought he was good in this. I enjoyed his character. But I know why. I think I know why you love this so much, because it bears a striking resemblance to Lost.
There is a bit of that,
in a big way, I think, actually.
I'd say that, or like Battlestar Galactica, the Battlestar Galactica remake. It kind of has that too.
You're just saying that because it's in space. No, I'm kidding.
No, just kind of like the weird, like psychedelic religious undercurrents and stuff.
Right. I gotta say, I did not enjoy this one, like, too much. It felt bland to me. It felt like, Ember's Linguini.
Well, no, it's Umber's Linguini,
Umber,
right?
yeah, okay. I get them too confused. Like,
I had concerns about this show, and I still do. I am not a religious person, and although I can enjoy like religious undercurrents in a show if it services the plot.
Yeah, I really enjoy. Well, I hope it's not headed towards that, but I like really enjoy when like a show can include religion in its plot without saying religion is stupid. Ain't that right, atheists? It's like, yeah, we
the other way
it.
around where they or the other way around where it's like, where the show is just a giant like,
if it's giant
soapbox to preach about religion,
right? If it's, the other way around, that's obnoxious too. I mean, both sides are obnoxious. If it can handle, if they can do a story including religion in like a mature, respectful manner, this isn't going to be a story where Richard Madden all of a sudden says, "Oh my God, God doesn't exist and my life was a lie. I finally know the truth." That it's like, and then he denounces religion in some dramatic fashion. If as long as it doesn't become that, because that would just be obnoxious.
Or the other side, like I said.
Yeah, the other side. He seems like a reasonable person, though. He doesn't seem like some hardcore Bible thumper who's going to shove religion down your throat and start screaming, "The gays are going to hell, the gays are going to hell." I don't think that's happening in any future episodes of this show unless Richard Madden's character really goes off the rails. So he seems like a really down to earth, reasonable guy so far from this pilot, at least.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he is religious, he's not one of those. He's not some overly obnoxious Bible thumper so far.
Yeah.
I liked his character. His character was probably the best character in the show. I just felt for the most part the characters felt flat.
A lot of the Ensler characters are kind of flat.
Yeah, they're kind of flat. Like the woman,
the security officer.
The security officer, yeah, like, who is she? I don't really care. Like, they didn't do much to make her interesting. Even though they were clearly suggesting she is a major character, she is a major part of the plot. They didn't do anything to make her an interesting character.
Mm-hmm. Well, they didn't do a great job with her because there's like the whole thing where she's very suspicious of Richard Madden's character.
Right.
And then like, he's like, "I'm gonna go off and do this thing," and she's like immediately like jumps to his side and is like, yeah. "I've been seeing my daughter out there. I'm gonna support you 100%."
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah,
I understand that turn in her character. Like they did the work to show why she would do that,
right.
But they didn't do the work to like show her journey.
Right.
You know what I mean? To that point. So it's kind of like a weird
It's kind of a weird turn, yeah.
I think it's kind of, this is like what I call pilotitis.
It is.
Which is that,
they
needed to get a certain amount of story covered in the pilot episode to kind of show you where this was going.
I understand, yeah. Like,
and in order to do that, they had to abbreviate certain aspects.
I was thinking about it, and I understood, like, this is set up. This is all set up. The rest of it could be amazing. There could be, like, a completely wild ride ahead of us from here on. Like, like it could just be like a roller coaster. And this was just the beginning part of the roller coaster where you're heading towards the top of the hill, and then the next episode you could be start. But, it could be like that. But there's one problem with having a setup pilot like this with Amazon's format, and that is the format Amazon chose is, okay, we're going to show you this, and you're going to vote to see if you want more, and then
in 3 years you'll see that.
And then in 3 years you'll see, by the time you forgot this existed, episode 2 will be out. And it's like, well, okay, I guess.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to transition the conversation now away from Oasis and into just kind of Amazon in general and the pilot season and how that works. And this is a concern that you've expressed before about the whole kind of, at least to me, I'm not sure if we did on the show before, but about just the way that you watch this pilot episode and then the show goes into production later based on how people react to it. This is like a part of TV that we normally aren't exposed exposed to.
Right.
Because like most network shows and cable shows, I mean, that's changing a little bit with some of the streaming shows and stuff, but most of the most shows have a pilot episode.
Right.
And then that pilot episode has gone over
It's
and
used,
people decide if it's gonna...
Right. It's
they make changes and...
I realize that pilots are made and they're made on speculation that the show will get picked up, and they're not necessarily made because the show has
and it's usually
been ordered.
It's usually something we're not exposed to.
Right, exactly.
We don't usually see this process, and by seeing this process, you have that long delay. Like Will said, where like most, I think a lot of people, they think like, well, why can't the show just get started? Well, they don't even have contracts with the actors.
Right, they don't have...
they need to like reset contracts, they need to clear schedules, and they need to start writing, because they haven't paid a commitment to write more episodes yet either. So they have to, there's nothing started writing. It's only the pilot.
Right, they only filmed this. It's like a movie. It's like, okay, we made the Avengers, but that doesn't mean they can just put Avengers 2 out because they haven't made that yet. Nothing's in place for that. So it's the same deal. They made this and they just made this. That's it.
They just announced recently the release date for the Tick, which was the last time we talked about Amazon pilots.
Oh my God, yeah, that's right.
Like a year ago
Tick
or
was
something.
like over a year ago. Yeah, I completely forgot about that because I was like, that was cool. And then it exited my life for to the point where, I forgot it existed. And now it's coming back. I mean, that's cool. It is cool. So I don't think the pilot season model is a good idea for Amazon. I guess Amazon, I think the idea initially is interesting, having your audience decide what you should pick up and what you shouldn't. But I mean, your audience is fickle. I mean, they're going to vote for this thing and then they're going to forget it exists. And when you do bring it back, are half the people voted for it going to even remember that it was a thing to begin with? Like, are they going to check Amazon and be like, oh yeah, I've been counting the days until this came out? I mean,
it's a tricky situation because it's a cool idea.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily work out right. It's kind of like, do you remember they used to have that show on HBO, and I think it was on a different channel at some point, that Project Greenlight where they make the movie?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
It's kind of like that. Like, you watch this, you're seeing the process of them making this movie and everything, and then like a year later the movie comes out.
Yeah.
It's like, by that point, like, everyone's like already kind of like, oh yeah, I'm already done with that. Like, what's the next season of Project Greenlight? I don't care about the actual movie,
Right, exactly.
And so that's kind of the risk you have with, like, in Amazon with the pilot season. Some shows have come out of it and actually done really well and gotten like critical praise and success. I mean, Transparent, Mozart in the Jungle, both those are examples.
How much of that success is because of the pilot season, and how much of it is just because these came out and they actually ended up being good shows and people?
Well, the question is if a show
watched it when people decided to pick it up and watch it when it came out and all the episodes were available to view. How many of those people were people who actually voted for it to begin with? There's those statistics too that you gotta wonder about.
Some of it you have to wonder though, because it's like Transparent, for example, the subject matter and the kind of tone of the series. I don't know if that would have necessarily been picked up by anybody. If it wasn't shown in a way that got people like in a fervor about it.
That's true. That's true. With the subject matter, I don't see any, but I wouldn't see anybody picking that up with that subject matter,
On the other hand, like The Man in the High Castle would have probably done better without a pilot season.
Yeah, probably would have done better without. Exactly. So it's interesting. It's interesting what Amazon's doing, and I don't think we can definitively say it's right or it's wrong. But I think when in a case like Oasis, where, I I'm not sold on this show at this point.
You're like, yeah, give me another episode. Oh wait.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's got pilotitis where it was just boring to me. And it felt like a lot, and the reason I compared it to Lost was because they put these characters on this remote location, this time a planet instead of an island, and it's the mysterious magical planet because now they're seeing stuff from they're seeing manifestations from their memories and stuff, which Lost literally did with its first season. They did the same exact thing on Lost, and so that's why I instantly drew the Lost comparison, because that's the best thing you have to compare it to right now. And I just thought, but this is not as engaging as Lost was with that first season. But
it doesn't have that as much of a sense of adventure, which sounds strange for a show that takes place on another planet. But
exactly. And also, I think Lost did like a much better job of fleshing out their characters and making you care about their characters.
It did that over time, though.
Yeah, I think it did that.
People hated Sawyer and then loved it.
That's true. It did.
So because I can't ding Oasis for that.
You can't ding it in a pilot. No, I mean that's the problem. It's a pilot. I don't know. I'm making these Lost comparisons, but as I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I can even say because when I first watched Lost, I rented the DVD of the first season, and we pretty much went through all the episodes in order of that first season. I don't have that luxury here. If I just watched, so I have to wonder if I just watched the Lost pilot, just the first episode, and then had to sit there with that pilot, would I be saying the same things?
And the Lost pilot aired as a double episode too, which just exasperates that whole situation.
Yeah,
the Lost premiered with a 2-hour episode.
Oh, that's right, it did. If I just watched the first hour of Lost and just sat there with that, would I be thinking the same things? Would I be like, well, that wasn't that interesting, I don't know if I want to continue? Because again, the problem with pilots. So I will say that I will say for Oasis, I wasn't too enthralled with this pilot, but there is a lot of potential and it's got a lot of things going for it. It's got great acting. The production values are certainly high. The writing is good. It's definitely good. It's a bit on the bland side at this point. They need to spice it up a little bit, but it is quality. So the show and it can literally go anywhere at this point. I mean, we don't know what the hell's going on. That's the big thing. Nobody knows what the hell's going on with this or what these manifestations are. Well, it means nobody, so it can literally go anywhere from here. So it's got potential coming out of its ears, for future episodes and seasons. Like I said, this show could be like a blast. It could be like another, it could be just as good as Lost or better, potentially. It's got that potential, but we'll know until more episodes are produced, and this episode just isn't the most enthralling. Even if the show gets better, this episode will not be the most enthralling episode of this show. So that
I love the tone of the show, I think, more than anything. It kind of had like a horror kind of tone.
It did. It did have some kind of horror tone to the show. Just the problem is I didn't buy into the horror. So if it was building up to that, I didn't buy into it. Especially the scene where Robert Baratheon.
Mark Addy.
Yeah, Mark Addy. He sees this horse that he spoke to Richard Madden about earlier in the episode. He was talking about this horse he bought when he was younger, and now they're drilling, and he literally sees this horse, and we know it's like the manifestations, the hallucinations that they've already introduced this concept earlier in the episode, that people see things, that these hallucinations happen. We've already seen the security officer have the hallucination of her daughter. That's already happened. So he sees this, and it's a hallucination, but he walks forward towards it and walks right into the drill. And it's so but it comes off as, it comes off as like kind of silly, kind of predictable. It's like, it wasn't like horror to me, more like, why did you do that? Why did you not realize?
When I say horror, I just mean kind of like the overall tone. Like,
right.
Not necessarily in the events. I mean the tone like in the way just, he arrives on the station and everyone's just kind of like sour, And there's just kind of this like what's going on here? Nobody's really talking straight to him about why everyone's miserable and angry and upset, And this kind of like that general tone, like the tonality of that throughout the episode is like palpable, You can like feel this kind of like bitterness and stuff in the air in the show. And I think that's what I mean by like the kind of the horror tone is like that's a very like it's a tension to it, that I think works. That the scene you're talking about, I think that scene is victim to pilotitis again. I think that he was the big, kill of the episode.
Which is sad because
and they had to focus on these other characters and show them kind of seeing things too. I think if they had spent more time on him and showing how these images were haunting him,
which is sad because
it would make the payoff
which is
better.
sad because he was the big kill, and I actually liked him more than some of the other characters who get to live. And it's like, I would have preferred to have Mark Addy versus, say, this person who hasn't done anything interesting all episode. But it's like
talking about the guy who's seeing his father.
Yeah.
I think by focusing on showing him having the issues with the sleep, that it takes away from Mark Addy's though. Like I think by showing that, by establishing all of these characters seeing things, I think it almost would have worked better in a Lost-like structure where like maybe in the first episode it's kind of splitting time between Richard Madden and him kind of experiencing all this and Mark Addy having these problems, seeing these things and being kind of tormented by them. And then like you go into the next episode and you start to put the focus on another character. You know what I mean? Kind of like the way Lost did. Lost would have character focuses. It didn't mean that whole episode was only about that character, but like it would kind of focus in on that character. And I think by trying to show all these different characters and all of them seeing these visions and stuff, you kind of took away of the development of making what Mark Addy was seeing. You took away from that being like something that was really haunting him into something that we just learned about and then almost immediately like got the payoff for.
Right, exactly. Also, I think this would have benefited from setting up some kind of clear conflict. It didn't necessarily have to be the main conflict of whatever the hell's going on this planet. Because that's way too mysterious and esoteric to be considered the main conflict for this right now, because people are seeing visions, but that's not necessarily a conflict. So
they did that a little bit with the chief executive.
Yeah, they did that a little bit. Yeah, with the chief, they're setting him up. I feel they're setting him up to be an antagonist, and I get that they don't want to jump right to making him a mustache twirling villain. Like, obviously not. I just felt that maybe some sort of clearer conflict could have helped with this episode. But yeah, again, it's sequel. It's probably they're setting these things up. It's just setting these things up, and obviously, and again, I would say the problem lies more with the format than the show itself, because they have to get the stuff out of the way, because they have to have a comparatively weak pilot. Amazon's format that they put in has more potential to hurt the show than to help it, because if people are bored by the pilot, they might not vote for it. Might not generate that much interest. Amazon might decide that there's not enough interest to continue it. And even if they do continue it, we're looking at least a year or so down the road, before we get a second episode, before we get to give the show a second chance.
Yeah, and that's the hard part about pilot season.
Right.
I also wanted to ask you said you were able to mouse over characters and see who they were using the X-ray feature, so I'm guessing you watched this on your computer?
Yes, I watched this on my PC, my Windows PC.
Because one last thing I wanted to address, and I brought this up before, like almost every time we talk about Amazon, is I put off watching these episodes until almost the last minute. And the whole reason is because I hate watching stuff on Amazon. I like a lot of the stuff that Amazon has. I hate their app experience.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, X-Ray's nice and stuff when you're on a computer and everything, but I mean, even when you're on a computer, like finding the episodes is like a pain.
Oh,
it's not organized well,
yeah,
like
no,
Netflix.
it's not organized at all. I actually had to Google the names of these shows just to find them. So I didn't go on Amazon and just go on Prime Video and say, whoop, there they are. There's all the pilots neatly set up for me to watch. No, I had to go to Google and I had to say Amazon, Legend of Bastard Legend, put that in and get the episode to pop up.
It's not good. Like their interface, and with the amount of content that Amazon is putting out now, they really need a solution to this.
These are actually,
because this is a problem.
These are actually hidden, because if I go to Amazon Prime Video's main landing page, and I will go to the main landing page for Amazon Prime Video right now and show you what I got. So we have Amazon Original Series. It's the top bar, because they got different, they got sectioned off into different, and it says Amazon Original Series. So we got Catastrophe, Bosch, Fortitude, Patriot, Sneaky Pete, Man in the High Castle, One Mississippi. You see where I'm going? I'm not getting to any of these pilots so far, and I've already listed off like 7 shows I've still not seen these pilots. Oh, now I'm at the end of it. Good Girls Revolt, Eat the World. Nope, none of the pilots were in this at all. Okay, well, what's the next? Recently added TV. Oh, okay. Well, there's the Marvelous Miss Maisel, but then there's the Americans, Orphan Black.
It's all spaced out.
Budding Prospects.
It's not organized at all.
No, it's not organized at all. Then you got movies, and you got, and I was looking for the category that said pilot season, because I was like, okay, well, maybe there's an Amazon pilot season, and there wasn't.
And there probably was for like the first week the pilots were out.
Actually now it's like all the way down towards the bottom of the page. It's Amazon pilot season, which actually wasn't there the first time I went to this. So, but now it's there all of a sudden. Okay, whatever. But yeah, it's just not organized well, and it's like you have to go out of your way to find this content. And
it also groups it by like seasons. So like if you were to look up, like, let's say Lost or something, I don't even know if Lost is on there, but I think it is. But if you were to look up Lost, like do a search, it would be like Lost season 3. Then it would be some completely other random thing. Then it would be like Lost season 6. And then it would be like it's like not, why don't, like, just Lost should come up as like a general thing, not like a season, but just Lost, And then it should start right on season 1, like having this confusion, and you can get through it because you can go to like Lost season 3 and then select the other season, but that's like a pain.
But
it's not a good user experience at all.
Right.
And that's the thing, is like a lot of shows on Amazon, there are quite a few shows on Amazon that I've been wanting to watch, and the only reason I haven't is because it's annoying dealing with their interface.
Right. And
I mean, some of the ones you mentioned there, Sneaky Pete, I want to watch Sneaky Pete. It actually looks pretty good. It's got Bryan Cranston in it, Giovanni Ribisi. It actually looks pretty interesting. I've been thinking about watching it for a while. Getting through that interface to watch it, like, oh god, like I watch on my TV, and in order to watch on my TV, I have to use my Wii U app. The Wii U app, I don't think it's been updated once since like the Wii U launched.
Oh, probably not.
And that thing was on it. I don't think it's been updated once. Whereas like the Netflix app on there, which also isn't great. The Wii U app for Netflix isn't that great either. That's been updated a ton of times. I don't think I've ever seen the Amazon app. It's crashed my system, the app. Like I've had to like reset the Wii U like manually because the thing crashed when I was trying to like exit out of something. It'll get like load loops and stuff where it's loading something and it just never stops loading. It's a pain in the ass. It is not user friendly at all. The Amazon wants you to buy like their like Fire TV stick and stuff like that. And because they're trying to dominate on that side of like making their own kind of streaming stick, they don't support Apple TV and they don't support Chromecast, which is like, I watch most of my stuff through Chromecast. Chromecast. So the fact that Amazon doesn't have Chromecast support, and it's like the only video service that still doesn't, means that I'm just not watching Amazon stuff, you know? I'm not going to go like, oh, I'm going to change the way I watch everything I watch so I can get more Amazon in. It's like, no, I found the thing that makes me watch stuff the way I want to watch. It's Chromecast. It works great. I want to watch, Netflix stuff. It's simple as shit. Want to watch YouTube? Simple as shit. Hulu? It's all easy. Everything makes sense, works perfectly. The Amazon? Nope.
Yep.
And this is a problem. Like, I really think that Amazon needs to fix this. They're growing rapidly with their content, and they are not growing with their user experience at all. I mean, it's just as bad as it always was. It's not improving. It's just getting more confusing and more messed up as they get more content.
Right, exactly.
So that's my little rant about Amazon. But anytime we talk about Amazon stuff, I have to rant about it because, I think people need to talk about this because Amazon needs to know that this is not a working solution. And for some reason, I think they don't understand that. But hopefully they fix up their shit, get their shit together, and, figure out a solution to this, because I'd like to watch more Amazon stuff, but it's a pain to get into because, God, just looking for stuff is a pain.
Right.
So, to end off the show, we're going to talk about what's coming up in the next week, in the week ahead. So, by the time this podcast is available, Friday, April 28th, 2017, Catastrophe is coming to Amazon, another Amazon original. That should be available now. And then we got 3 shows coming to Netflix. We have, Dear White People, Casting JonBenet, and Cable Girls, all coming to Netflix.
Right.
Then on Sunday, April 30th, and this is the big one, American Gods comes to Stars. So, just so you know, I've heard this, I'm not 100% sure on it, but I've heard that if you do Stars through the streaming service, which you can do if you subscribe to Stars normally, but also you can do if you subscribe to it digitally, I heard that it's going to be available at midnight, like right away.
Oh, really? Nice.
So you don't have to wait till Sunday evening. You can just watch it right away. So anybody, look into that. If you have Stars, do that. If you don't, then you can get it through Amazon. You can get it on its own. You can get it through, I think you can maybe get it through Hulu. I'm not sure. There are a number of ways you can get Stars, and American Gods is probably going to be the best show of the year. I'm just guessing. We haven't seen it, so there's no way to know for sure, but just based on who's involved and what we've seen, I think it's probably going to be the show that I'm most going to enjoy this year. And it's a show that we're going to be talking about on the next podcast. Then on Monday, May 1st, 2017, Lucifer returns to Fox. And on Friday, May 5th, 2017, 2 shows come to Netflix. Sense8 comes for season 2, as well as The Last Kingdom. Last Kingdom is a really good show that a lot of people didn't watch. It's about Vikings. It's the one, do you remember a long time ago when this was coming out and I mentioned that there was a show that kind of had the same plot as what's the Fire Emblem game with the 3 different games?
Oh, I have no idea. Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem.
Is it Fates, the one that had 3 different, you could choose sides?
Yeah.
And they were separate games? Yeah. So it's Fire Emblem Fates, basically. Cause it's about a character that he's Anglo-Saxon, or, so he's British, basically.
Right.
But the Vikings, when they invade, he ends up being adopted basically by this Viking family, and then he's a Viking. And then he gets some internal conflict happens there, and he ends up kind of at war with one of the main Viking guys, and his adopted Viking family is dead. So now he's going back to the Anglo-Saxons, and it's all kind of about this guy that's having to choose sides multiple times between these people. It's a really good show. I like it more than Vikings. I know Vikings is fairly popular. I think this show's actually a lot more fun. Vikings, it just kind of gets depressing at times.
Right, definitely.
The show's actually kind of a fun adventure, of him going through this experience. experience. And if you like, Fire Emblem Fates and you like that whole dynamic, it's very similar to that. Season 1 is already up on Netflix. Season 2 is coming on Friday, May 5th. And like I said, Sense8 is also coming back for its second season. I really liked Sense8, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And that's what's coming up in the next week. Not a lot of shows, but some big shows, especially American Gods. You can reach me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. You can reach Will on Twitter. He is at Voxel Hero. You can check out our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, as well as our site, TVEnthusiast.com. You can subscribe to our podcast through any major podcast client like iTunes or Pocket Cast. The entire backlog of our podcast is available on our YouTube channel, as well as lots of other stuff to go through and enjoy. So, I hope all of you had a fun time listening to us talk about Amazon's lousy interface and interesting pilots. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Good night.
Good night.
If you would like to voice your opinion, send an email to theweeklyset@TVEnthusiast.com. TV Enthusiast is a part of the Enthusiast Media Network. Stay tuned to TV Enthusiast and the Weekly Set podcast for more coverage of